It's up, it's down, rates are up or down, investing in rental properties can be challenging. Well, what you do want to do is take a look at multifamily properties where you can spread the risk out and also invest along with experts. Today, we're really excited. I'm excited to have another conversation with somebody I've spoken to a few times, Sandhya Seshradi, who is a successful, not just successful multifamily investor, but really has an exciting story of how she started from zero to get to where she is today. So, Sandhya, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me as a guest on your show. I hope I can be useful to your listeners.
So I'm sure you will, but we have in the past. I've really enjoyed my time with you. So tell me, give me a little background. How did you first get into real estate investing? What did you do before that?
So I am an engineer by trade. That's where I got my college degree, and I worked in the corporate world. After which I went full-time into the stock market, and I was looking for a tax advantage way of investing in something. And real estate was always fascinating. However, I did not have a handy person background to do fix and flips, and therefore I stayed away from single family rentals as well because I didn't want to get called for a leaky toilet because my audio is very quiet.
Yeah, all of a sudden, and you, of all people, very quiet. That's hard to believe.
I am not quiet, so let's see.
The audio, the volume is low. It's not that you're quiet. There's not enough words per minute there.
Okay. Is it any better now, or it's still kind of quiet?
That's better.
But it's still on the quiet side.
That's better yet. That's good.
This is better?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. How do I adjust my audio? You're on Zoom. That's speaker and microphone. I hear it well.
Okay. Well, that could be your playback on your side, but okay. So,
going back to my background.
Yes.
Started with engineering as a corporate.
Actually, I want to talk about my.
And now I'm in real estate, and I do full-time multifamily syndication for the economies of scale, so that it's, when one resident doesn't pay, then my income doesn't go from 100% to zero. So it's large-scale multifamily syndications, and the properties are large. So us as individuals don't have the kind of money to go buy these properties. So we syndicate by pooling everyone's money together for the down payment, while 70% of the purchase price is covered with a Fannie or Freddie or bridge loan. And the remaining down payment is by pulling a bunch of investors' money together to go buy these large properties. And we employ a professional property management company to run them.
Okay, we're still having some audio problems on your end, I think. At least what I'm hearing. So I don't know if you can speak close to the microphone. I know we spoke just a couple of days ago and it was perfect. So I don't know if could be a Zoom connection thing or internet connection thing. Your video's coming good. Don't want to miss a pearl here. I don't want a pearl to drop through our fingers. And give me a sound check again one more time.
Okay.
Still, I'm wondering if maybe on Zoom, do you have maybe selected a different microphone by accident? Is that possible?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, a little better. Try again.
How about this?
Okay. It still sounds like you don't have the microphone on, maybe more the webcam, but this is better than, maybe you just have to be close to the microphone like that. The closer it sounds like, the better. So let's talk a little bit about, hello, try again one more time.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's better. That's good.
Okay.
So let's talk a bit about getting started in multifamily. What was it about multifamily in particular? You said that you liked residential, but you didn't want to have to fix toilets. Now there's other investments, stocks, bonds, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, FTX stock. What was it about multifamily in particular that attracted you?
The benefits of real estate, the tax advantages are big because you can take advantage of depreciation, not just straight line depreciation, but accelerated depreciation. So that's a big one. Economies of scale by buying large scale business, which is a large apartment building. It's a business and its value is based on its net operating income, which you can force appreciate by increasing the revenue, decreasing the expenses, and therefore increasing the NOI. The price of a single family home is dependent on the price per square foot for that neighborhood. And even if you put marble floors, etc., the price is kind of fixed. But in multifamily, You could do interiors, exteriors, etc., increase the income, decrease the expenses, and therefore change the value of the property by operating it better than the one next door to it. And that's what's fascinating. The fact is that it's a business that you're operating, it's not a single family.
Fantastic. So, but somewhere along the line, did you meet somebody, or was there a program or something that gave you incentive in particular for multifamily?
Yes, I spoke to several of my friends who were doing single family rentals and just didn't like it, and they recommended a workshop to go to on the weekend, and it was in Dallas, and it's through Brad Sumrock. So I joined his mentoring program right away because I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a high-level asset manager, leaving the day-to-day work of leasing, maintenance, etc., to a property management company who does it as a professional company managing tens of thousands of doors. So I leave them to do what they do best, but I make sure they are fully bought into my business plan as an asset manager. And we have weekly calls where we review all our key metrics to make sure the asset performs so I can return money to my investors while still doing my best for the residents who are my customers.
And I think that's an important point to make, that in this business, we're not really on our own. Even though we're talking to you today about your projects and your investment journey, the reality is you're also part of a very, you're a integrated part of a community here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are completely dependent on other people doing their roles. Multifamily is a team sport. So single family rentals, you could do it all by yourself. Or fix and flip, you could do it by yourself. Multifamily is definitely a team sport. There's SEC regulations that come into play. So you want to have an SEC attorney helping you. You want to make sure you have very good contractors lined up to do the kind of work that is needed in a large scale, because you're talking hundreds of doors. You want to make sure your property management company is in tune with your plan, and they have the local experience to make sure all their budgets, expenses, and forecasts are in line with what is local to that market, because it's so different when you operate a deal in Texas versus, I don't know, Los Angeles or even Phoenix. The taxes are different, the insurance is different. So multifamily is definitely a team sport. You're dependent on a lot of other people. You have to do your part as well for the property and the investment to be successful.
So I want to share with you guys, if you're interested, look, we're going to be together for 30 minutes to an hour or so, but she has a whole program, engineered-capital.com. And there's a picture of her. It's either her or a fancy model she paid for her website. And join the Investor Club. So tell me a little bit about what's the Investor Club that you're offering.
The Investor Club is actually a free club to join to get to know and understand more about multifamily. So if you are even interested in exploring this further, you start receiving you basically are subscribing to be in my mailing list. So you get educational content. You get at least a monthly newsletter. You also get an early look at potentially a future offering I might have. And if it's a 506B offering, as an example, we've got to have had multiple conversations and made sure you're a sophisticated investor before I can share that offering with you. And if it's a 506C offering, then I still would like to have a conversation with you, because I don't want to have a nervous investor. So the first part is the education. So you have to get educated. You have to have the sophistication and understanding. And you start getting into my newsletters so you learn more about the business and decide if this is right for you or not.
So, and when you say a relationship, that would mean something like somebody who's been to your seminar maybe, or maybe had a conversation. What does that really look like in terms of having a relationship with you to be able to invest with you?
So the typical process I go through is, let's say you meet me at a meetup like today virtually. So we haven't really had a one-on-one conversation. The first step would be for us to initiate a phone call. Like, we'll have a Zoom call that's at least 30 minutes in length. We'll know a little bit about each other's backgrounds, risk tolerance, etc., your sophistication. If someone has looking to invest the last $50,000 that they have into one of my deals, I'm going to say no, because I really want them to not have all their eggs in one basket. So that's why I like to understand their investment background. And I like to explain the kinds of deals that I do and where I'm coming from and what's important to me, and really get a feel for whether we're a good fit for each other, because it works both ways, right? That's very important. So then the next step is, if the first conversation goes well, then what I do is I typically send them an example of a past deal, but pretend like it's being offered to you today. So then they take a couple of weeks to review that, come back to me with questions, and we have a follow-up Zoom call where we go over it and say, this is what I like about this deal, or this is what I don't like. And so we have that sort of in-depth conversation. And then let's say that goes well. Then they formally fill out another form to say, you can now add me to your database. And in between, we'll still be exchanging emails or having some additional back and forth conversation because both of us want to feel comfortable. The last thing I want is for an investor after they invest in one of my deals is to worry every 2 weeks. Like I had an investor who was calling me before a freeze was going to come to Dallas. We had a big ice storm last week, and she was calling me concerned about what are you doing to make sure your property is going to be okay. I said, this is a professional property management company running this property with tens of thousands of doors. We will do the same thing. They have these warning signs. We have an email blast sent to the residents who live in Texas and know what to do. You drip your faucets, et cetera, et cetera. So this is not the level of detail even I go into, let alone a potential. So if you're going to be worried, you're going to be calling me frequently, then it's probably not a good fit. Once you've done a good level of work on me, maybe you have some references to my existing passive investors, you speak to them, you get multiple references from different people, maybe you do a background check on me, et cetera. It's up to you to figure out what is your level of
Right.
on my part, I don't want an investor who's going to call me every week, right? So I want them to be comfortable looking at the kinds of reports I send. So I give them an example report. And if the communications are okay, their risk tolerance is a good match, then that's when they get on board and then they get, an early look at potentially a future offer.
Yeah, as an investor, I don't want to worry about those things. That's why I'm a passive investor and I have investments in Texas and Dallas area. And I even think about the icing calling, which I can imagine. I figure that they know what they're doing. I certainly don't know what to do. I'm not going to go out there with a ice pick or a shovel or whatever. I've lived in Los Angeles and Florida my whole life, so I don't really know what to do. So just real quick, I think it might be just a good chance to take a quick break here and to give a quick explanation of who we are. We're the Los Angeles County Real Estate Investor Association. This is our weekly podcast. We do it every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We live stream it onto YouTube and Facebook and other social media, LinkedIn. And then we're affiliated with this group, we're the official podcast, that has a Vendors Expo once a month coming up this Thursday. It turns out Thursday, February 9th at 6:30 p.m. It's the second Thursday every month. And it's in the, we call kind of Culver City-ish area of West Los Angeles off of Motor. I lost my spot here. Off of Motor Drive technically it's the city of Los Angeles. And we get about 250 people come every week. There's every month. There's a speaker. And then there's a Vendors Expo, about 50 different vendors each episode as well. I'm one of the vendors there. I'm actually live streaming the event while we're there. And the speaker this coming week, this Thursday, will be Christopher Meza, who's going to speak on pre-development real estate and land banking. So again, that starts at 6:30 with the Vendors Expo. And then there'll be a talk starting about 7:30ish to go to 9:30. Free event, free parking. You can get there soon enough. It's at the Iman Culture Center. And if you're interested in information or registering, it's LAREIC.com for Los Angeles Real Estate Investment Club.com, LAREIC.com. Great event. It's one of the few I go to after work hours because I get a chance to meet a lot of people. And if you're there, please walk up and say hi to me. Now, Sandhya won't be there because she's in Texas. But her heart will be with us because she's a real estate investor at heart. So now let's talk a little bit about your investments. On your website, you have recent acquisitions. Is that up to date? Is that fairly representative of the kind of projects that you do? Oh, I think you're muted. And then because you have high security here, I had you unable to unmute yourself. There you go.
Great. These are some of the projects. There are still some more. I just launched my website literally yesterday. So they're still adding more to it. So for example, North Bridgeport Apartments in Cleburne, it was already sold. So it needs to have a big banner that says sold on it. We sold it in November of 2021. That's a full cycle. Some of these others like Woodside Villas in Irving is the most recent acquisition. We acquired it in October of 2022 with a Freddie Mac fixed rate loan, which is
wow.
We got a 4.8% interest rate and 71%. So, and with 5 years of interest only, 10 years fixed. So that's what was very favorable for investors. So we didn't have a problem getting fully subscribed on that one. So that was our most recent deal. The Carrollton and Hearst deals, both on the top, were acquired in 2021. And those were acquired as bridge loans. And then we acquired 2 more deals in 2022 that are not pictured here, and then 1 in 2020 as well. So I need to get those added to my website. So that's 7 current, I've got 6 current offerings right now that are being actively asset managed. One of them is under contract, hopefully to be sold at a price that was acceptable to us. So then I'll have 5 under management. And so I typically try to stabilize one property before acquiring the next one. And it's always with multiple partners, so that if I'm out on vacation, there's 2 other people at least who can cover for me.
And then all your business in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area?
Yes, I've lived here for 32 years, so all my acquisitions are in Dallas, and Cleburne actually was the farthest, meaning it's an hour from my house. All the other properties are within a 30-minute drive from my house. And
So you started when you were 8 years old?
Nice. I've only started acquiring these properties in the last 4 years. So prior to 2018, I was not in real estate at all. So I was fully in the stock market and in the high tech industry, the semiconductor business.
And so what would you say are common characteristics of these properties? I can see size, the low at 86, high 196. So it looks like you're moving up in your unit count a little bit towards 200. They all seem to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. How else would you describe them? What would you say is common about the quality of the property or the status of the property when you're buying them? And then what do you typically do to them?
The biggest thing I look for is that they're in a place which is low crime, because that's things I've not seen. So location is everything. So I know my Dallas market really well. The suburbs like Carrollton, Irving, Garland, Hearst, etc., I know to be good locations. So it's very, very important to have the location figured out first. The low crime, high median household income, meaning that if my highest rent is, let's say, $1,500, that's an annual rent of times 12, which is $18,000. So I look for a median household income of at least 3 times that, so $54K plus, because I want the family to be able to easily afford to live in this property. So high median household income is extremely important. The next characteristic we look for is that the rents of the subject property are far below market. And by market, I mean the competitive properties nearby, within a 1 mile radius of each other, ideally on the same side of the highway. So think of it from the prospective tenants shopping for a place to stay. Why is the subject property attractive or not attractive? First and foremost is for the square footage and similar size type of unit and a similar amenity property. You cannot compare a C class, which is built in the 60s and 70s, to an A class, which is built in 2020.
Right.
It's not a fair comparison. So when you make a comparison of similar amenity properties, the subject property has to be a good bargain in terms of there's still a lot of value add left to play, and it's got to have rents far below its competitive property so that there is some upside for us right as soon as we acquire it. And then we shouldn't have to do very elaborate upgrades to bring that rent. Even a basic make ready should get us that subject property up to the market rent of at least $100 rent. So that's a very important thing we look for across the board on all these states. Location has to be phenomenal. Like I said, we like proximity to schools, businesses, walkability to a grocery store, all of those little factors. And we like to have family-friendly places. So I even look at details like how many percentage of studios in 1 bedroom versus 2 and 3 bedrooms. And that's those are some of the characteristics that are common across all these.
You really have a very unique approach. I know that whenever I've talked to the top multifamily investors, money return on capital investors and syndicators, they always talk about the importance of catering to the customers. You really take that another level because you live in the neighborhood, know the neighborhood. Share with us today what you do on Mother's Day in your projects. I was just blown away.
Well, it's very simple and it's very inexpensive, but we just handed out a single long stem rose to every mom in the property, tissue wrapped with a cute note. And, that's not expensive at all, but it makes them feel like they're special and welcome, and we appreciate our residents. I mean, popsicles by the pool is another very inexpensive thing to do. And, we do Easter egg. I mean, how expensive it is to have some candy and plastic eggs around the property. Santa visit. You have a big Santa sitting in that leasing office and decorated with Christmas tree, etc. People come to take pictures and get some goodie bags. Again, if you look at your marketing budget in your property, that's more than 100 doors. These are all little things to show residents that we care, and we want you to feel like this is just as good as a cul-de-sac neighborhood in a nice location, like Highland
Right.
Park, where I went to college in SMU, which is a very fancy area that I still can't afford, while I was living in this stinky student apartment, right? So I wanted to bring that neighborhood cul-de-sac feel to my apartment by doing all these little things. So we build a community. And what that does for you is all the neighbors watch out for each other in there. And so it's a safer place for that single mom with 2 kids to come and stay. So National Night Out, for example, you could easily get the fire department, the police department to come over. And it's important to have your neighborhood crime watch officer to come to your property and for them to feel comfortable going to the police rather
Right.
than being afraid of them. So we
Right.
do things like that that don't really cost you a lot of money, but build that sense of community.
It's the little things that show you care. Isn't that just true about life in general, whether it be your spouse, your kids, your friends, your neighbors, business associates? It's just the little things that make a difference.
Yeah, they make a huge difference.
Yeah.
And during COVID, right, the first property that I said I bought and sold in a 27-month time frame, most of our hold period was in 2020. So we bought it in August 2019. We sold it in November 2021. So when COVID happened and we couldn't do all these outdoor picnic kind of events, we bought these goodie bags, filled them with hard to find items like toilet paper and sanitizers and things
Wow.
like that. On the doors of every unit with a little note to say, hey, we're still a community, we're still here. So, we used to have these Halloween costume contests. We made that online. So people posted a picture and then we awarded the best, dress costume prize. We had a door decoration contest for, decorating for the holidays and things like that. Again, just feelings to say, hey, you're not alone and isolated in your property just because it's COVID and we're all shut. And what happened was that community in particular, it was 86 doors. They built a really strong connection with the property management company. So when it came to paying rent, and many of them lost their jobs, restaurants were closed, everything was, they were able to come and have those conversations freely instead of just hiding inside their apartment. So in our courtyard, had set up a computer with our leasing staff available to talk to them socially distance and help them fill out some of the paperwork for rent relief. So we
Wow.
actually had all but one resident of those 86 units that we ended up having to evict because that guy took checks and bought himself big screen TV and a nice new truck and refused to pay rent, even though he was the only person we evicted from that property. So, we want to build a community. You know why? From a financial sense, if you're just looking at it as a pure investor and saying, why is she
Right.
babbling on about all these little things? Well, here's
Right.
the financial impact. You have retention, you have
Right.
renewals, you have good reviews, hopefully. And more than that, when you have renewals and retention happening in times like this, then you spend less money on your turn, spend less time on your make readies. There's less, it's like a plane taking off with empty seats, right? You'll never get that money back. So
Right.
the time that it takes you when a unit is vacant before you can fill it again, all those days you're still collecting rent because nobody moved out. You
Right.
should be targeting 60 to 80% in your renewal rate for really having solid residents who will always pay and stay kind of forever in a community. And one of our properties in Garland, actually, that's 254 doors that we acquired last year. And the residents love staying there. All of our staff also stays there at the property. And so
Wow.
things get attended to right away. And we've got residents who stayed there for more than 10, 15 years, and we don't want to lose them. So we tell them, okay, what does it take? We don't have to come in and do fancy updates. How about we give you a new appliance? We want you to stay. What does it take, right? Because if you have to go in, especially now, and spend $10,000 to update a unit, and all you're going to get is $100 rent from, look at it. In 12 months, you're only going to get 1,200 more, but you have to
Right.
spend $10,000 today. You might as well wait a year, especially if you're on a bridge loan and cash is hard to come by in some of these deals. Think about it. What is the ROI? So renewals and retention and customer satisfaction should be like the foundation of when you run it.
I hear that from all successful organizations, though I have to say my mind is still stuck on the swimming pool and popsicles. So I'm trying to figure out how I can work my way into your event. So look, for those of you that called today, this is meant to be participative. Love to, as much as I'd love to talk to Sandhya, and I could for hours. The purpose here is to kind of get you engaged. If you're interested in getting started in real estate, if you're more sophisticated, looking to upscale from single family or small family homes to a larger project, syndicating, investing passively. If you have a job and can't afford to spend the time looking for investments, she's here for that as well. Feel free to raise your hand, put a comment in the chat box. If you're watching on the live stream on YouTube or Facebook, I see we have a nice following there. Again, feel free to put a comment there, and we will be glad to try to forward that. If you're watching on recording, I'll come back and answer the questions or circle back with Sandhya and get them answered for you. So feel free to be participative if you can. And then just while we're here, just a quick break. Again, the LARIC event is Thursday night at 6:30 at the Inman Center in the Culver City area. LARAIC.com has all the details. We'll have a speaker on pre-development real estate and land banking, Chris Rameza. We'll have 250 guests, students, and about 50 vendors like me will be there, and hopefully we can see you there. It's free. If you get there early enough, there's free parking as well. Okay, so who has a question? Here we have an expert. While we're waiting for somebody else, I mean, I like I said, I could talk all day. So talk to the woman who is working, busy on the job, maybe as a family, busy with family life, making more money than they spend, putting money away diligently, puts it in their investments and watch it goes up and down and craziness and all that, has had a mind to invest in real estate for the long run and is just scared to get started. Maybe they're not accredited, but they're learning and they want to learn more. What should that person look for to give them the courage to take that first step to get invested?
The first step is always education in any new venture. So figure out what is your risk tolerance, and if you can let that money go without being liquid for about 5 years. Most real estate investments are anywhere from 5 to 7 years. The liquidity also varies. They might say that there's a big cash flow projection, but if they get hit by a storm or something else and they have to do a lot of repairs, the cash flow might go away. So really plan for that money to be illiquid for 5 years and say, 5 years from today, am I better off putting my 50K in a large building in Dallas or in a stock market? Because that's what you're really doing. In any company, right. 401k, you're putting it in a mutual fund. You have no control, no idea, no say on what happens, which stocks they pick, what fees they charge, how they're going to change their strategy, what things affect that stock, whether it's a high growth stock, what sector it's in, it's just a general high large cap stock, it's a very aggressive stock. You have no idea literally when you put your money into an investment like that. And you have to also consider the bias. If you talk to a financial planner, do they have real estate experience, or are they just going to tell you to put money into the stock fund for which they get some kind of a commission? So look at the bias of anyone you listen to. Take advice in any sector only from people who are already doing what you want to be doing, whether that's real estate, stocks, crypto, you name it. And thirdly, give yourself a deadline. So 30 days from today, I'm going to get my top 10 questions answered on whatever this investment is, so that I make a decision. Not a year from today. That's too slow. Give yourself 30 or 60 days. Write your biggest questions, your biggest concerns. Do some homework on someone who's already doing that. And ask them, okay, what is the worst case scenario? What is the best case scenario? Can you afford to not have access to this money? That's the first. For me to get over the hump and invest my first $50,000 into a real estate investment where somebody else controlled it, where I had no control, I had to meet the person. I had to get references from other people who told me that this person is a person in good standing with no history of bankruptcy or financial, bad things happening, fraud, etc. And beyond that, I had to actually drive and see the property for myself. So I invested in the property in Dallas in a location that I had already. So the market was great. Now it's a matter of checking the operator. And so I did my homework on the operator, and I put money that I was not counting on for at least 5 years. I put my first investment from my retirement money from my corporate world and moved that into a self-directed IRA. So if you have 401k plan money left over from a previous employer, you can roll it into an IRA, especially if you're not looking at retirement in the next at least 5-year horizon. That's a somewhat, I think, more tolerable way of doing that first investment. That the operator and the market would be the two biggest things. Then the third thing I would ask for is anyone who presents a deal to you. look at their analyzer spreadsheet and they have so many different numbers, right? The only question you have to ask is, who gave you that number? It cannot be speculation on the part of the operator. So if I give you a spreadsheet with rent numbers, guess what? My property management company gave me all those rent numbers and said, yes, you can achieve that rent by executing your business plan in that location. If I give you a spreadsheet which has operating expenses or taxes or insurance, same thing. Every one of those numbers was given to me by a neutral third party. So it's not the sponsor's bias trying to twist the numbers to make it work because they need a deal so bad. Here's where you remove that, because this is large sums of money and other people's money. You cannot take those risks because it's money, at least in my case, money that I can never pay back on my own. So the property must do well to pay back. So for that, I have to have neutral, unbiased people giving me that numbers. The term sheet has to come from the lender. So if I'm going to close a deal in 60 days and today I have a term sheet, what is the confidence that that's going to be true in 60 days at the time of closing? Well, with Freddie, which is where we did our last two deals, you can lock in your risk. Freddie, if you put a good faith deposit, allows you to lock in your interest. So even if the Fed raises interest rates one more time in March by 25 basis points, it's not going to affect the rate because you can rate lock it. So those are the kind of things that I do to minimize risk in investment, to make sure that the sponsor's bias is as much as.
So she just spit out a ton of gold there. I'm going to slow down and unpack a little bit of that, because I was just taking notes and I wrote down 6 different ways you can minimize your risk, according to Sandhya. And she said, know your syndicator, go meet them personally. You can meet her online, go to an event where she's at, go out to Dallas, meet them individually. Number 2, see the property, drive the property. She sees all her own properties. But if you're investing money, you want to see your own property. That's why generally people invest where they live. I go to Dallas and I go to Florida once, twice a year on business, so I can go see my properties at that time. 3, she said, use retirement funds. And the advantage there is that you're maybe not paying taxes on the money. So it's a little less risk. It minimizes your risk by the amount of the taxes you would pay on it. 4, know your market, right? She knows Dallas real well. You need to do the research if you're going to invest money in it. 5, have a local team, she mentioned, having people who work in the area and know the area specifically. And then 6 was know the numbers, make sure the numbers are verified by a third party. So you'll get syndicators who will give you some fancy numbers and assumptions, but you want she mentioned the property management company, the lender. Also, I think the insurance company is another one who can help run numbers and verify different figures for you. So you want to make sure the numbers are verified. And usually a reputable syndicator will give you a packet that includes the verification of the numbers. So they're going to say, here, you can audit this if you want. This is where we got our data from, rather than you relying on them. And I think when you start, this tends to be insecure and not ask questions, but a good syndicator will welcome, my experience, they'll welcome those questions, because if you find a question they haven't answered already, they want to answer it so that they don't have to answer again next time and on the next project and the next project. So if they're not willing to answer questions, that's usually a dangerous sign that you should be concerned, I think. How's that for a summary there, Sandhya?
That's an excellent summary. And the questions part is really good, and communicate. That's another question I ask is, what kind of reports, what kind of communications can I expect? How often can I call you, etc. Right? So I have some investors who are engineers, very analytical like me. They like to dig into those numbers. Right? So I tell them to call me whenever I'm on a long drive. I drive all the time to my properties, but I also have long drives to go see my kiddo in college kind of drive. And I say, okay, I'm going to be driving this Saturday. You want to have an hour-long call? Call me. It'll keep me awake and not fall asleep on the wheel.
Wow.
So I have lengthy discussions with them because that's what keeps them happy, and I don't mind that. It's just hard on a Monday morning at 10 a.m. to dedicate that time.
Right.
So
right.
I asked them, and some of them are like, I have a couple of investors in Saudi Arabia, so it's perfect. Their time zone is off from mine. So middle of the night, I could go have a call, or early morning, and it's great. So, you got to figure out if the communication style and the type of transparency from the operator is acceptable to you. And you want to make sure you're always talking to, when I say the word operator, the person who's going to be running the asset after it closes. So I call it when the honeymoon phase is over, and all the excitement of, oh, we closed the deal, look what we got this deal, etc. That's when the honeymoon's over, and you have the next 5 years to manage this asset. Who's going to be doing that when the deal closes? You want to be making sure you're in a direct line to those people who can give you an update on the deal. Like, I don't have to look up a spreadsheet now to tell you what my occupancy is across my properties. I just know it. So I'm the operator in my, the same way you want to be talking to the operator.
That's when the work starts, right? It's great to get the deal. You fight, you work, you hard, all that. You get the deal, great. Now, oh wow, we own it. What are we gonna do with it, right? So it's like any business. You get the contract. I'm the same way as an agent. It's exciting to get the listing, but then when I get the contract back, it's signed. Oh wow, I need to get to work. So good for you. Okay, so last call for questions. If you're on the live stream on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to put it in there. I got an what's up from Diggs BTW. What's up? Back to you. But if you have questions, this is your chance to do that. You're speaking to an operator, an expert in the field. I think most importantly, a woman who transformed herself from a 9-to-5 job as an engineer into an investor, and she shared her path with you. But if you're in that spot looking to make that jump, here's somebody who's done it. You can ask her a question. Shout out to Jack Lapidus, one of our favorite attorneys. We love seeing Jack when he's not at UCLA basketball games or UCLA football games or otherwise affiliated with that high school in Westwood. Nice to see you, Jack. Great picture. If you follow him on Facebook, he's with his son a lot. And lately with your girlfriend, it looks like, on some funny things. And Paul Krause co-hosts a multifamily event. He's part of our team. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Okay. Paul can't put his hand up. Well, Paul, I can unmute you. How's that? Good friend of the show.
That's perfect. Thanks, Bill.
What's up, Paul?
No, great to be here. And, congrats to Sandhya for, those are some pretty big deals that you did. And it's hard work. I do multifamily as well. I've been doing it since 20. So, what Bill said is so true about the minute you close, it's like, okay, you go right back to work. And it's kind of just funny how that's where the real work starts. But I just was going to ask you, because the deal sizes that you're doing are, you're doing like over 100 unit type deals. When you put a deal together and you're dealing with that size, do you cap the number of people that are going to invest in the deal, or are you thinking more in terms of how much you want each person to contribute financially? Like, can you share a little bit about how you kind of like deconstruct so that you can basically close your deals?
Are you talking in terms of how many people are co-general partners to raise capital, or the number of investors we allow into a deal, whether that's 50 or 100 people?
Yeah, no. Well, my original question was how many you allow into each deal at a time. If you have a kind of like a hard number, or if you require a certain dollar amount, like, hey, we try to limit it to 30 or 20 or 100 or whatever it is, and this is kind of how we put our investor, like our stack, together.
We have a minimum investment of $50,000 in most deals. So when people come to me saying, "Hey, I only have 25,000," I typically say, "Can you and another fine partner together come in as an LLC for 50, and each of you contribute smaller amounts if you like?" So I've had several people do that, but we like to keep our minimum investment at 50,000. So my last deal, we had to raise $10.5 million. Another deal, we had to raise like $12 million. So if we start accepting tiny amounts, then it becomes too many investors. So we keep our minimum investment at 50, but our average investment across all of our investors tends to be closer to 100.
Yeah.
I may take a lot of 50K investors, and I could have a 500K investor and do the average.
Yeah, I get it. And you like to do 5 years. You were saying like you like that time frame before you'll then decide to either cash people out or refinance, or.
It varies from deal to deal. My first 2 deals, we exited in less than 3 years. So about 2 years, 27 months and like 28 months kind of time frame. My third deal now that we have listed and under contract, if it goes through, it'll be, again, 2.5 years, so 28 months roughly, if they actually close on the date they have given us right now. So it depends deal to deal based on the situation. We acquired a deal last year in March that is an older property, but one of those clean properties with a lot of customer satisfaction ratings, etc. So I think we will refi that when the time is right and we get the proceeds we need and hold it longer term. Versus there's another property that's more of a headache property, if you will, for which once we execute the business plan and get to the NOI we need to sell it with this increasing cap rate environment, we'll probably sell it. So it varies deal to deal. And, the first deal, we did take a poll of our highest, investors, the ones who invested larger sums. We kind of took a small group poll to say, are you okay if we sell this versus refi? And they said, well, our only concern is the tax consequence. So give us plenty of notice so we have time to plan for another investment because of the big upside they were getting.
Gotcha. That's great. Yeah, it's a lot of work to put them together. The only other question I was going to ask you is, are you brokering your deals on the back end? Are you selling your deals, or are you using the same brokers that brought you the deal to begin with?
It's a relationship business. So for the broker to be kind enough to award the deal to me, especially in the last few years when it was super competitive in Dallas, I owe them the courtesy. So I always list it back to the same broker, or off market, sell it back, but with the broker getting their due commission. I'm not going to try to direct.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Always great seeing you.
Yeah, you too, Bill.
We're going to have to jump off here a little earlier than normal just because of the timing of things. I see Brittany, Nicole, you have a great question. There's a little more than we can handle on this call. I would say come Thursday night to the LARIC event, LAREIC.com, and we'll probably be able to get you a little more. Or if you want to call me offline, I'd be glad to share with you some other alternative strategies for that. But I just don't have, that's a very detailed, great, complicated question that's not really for Sandhya and not really for this call right today, okay?
Yeah, thanks. I don't know anything about fix and flips and single family. I'm only all that I've ever.
And I don't do them, but I have clients that do. So I'd be more glad to talk to you about some strategies, Brady. So reach me offline or come on Thursday night. So that said, Sandhya, thank you so much for being on. If you want to connect up with her again, feel free. I lost the spot here. Her website is engineeredcapital.com, engineered-capital.com. Don't forget the hyphen, I get the wrong spot. And somewhere in there, got to have her picture on that. I somehow lost, there it is. There's a picture of her. So you know you're at the right spot. And if you want to know more, you can join her Investors Club. And that way she'll keep you in touch with her upcoming programs. You can start that relationship with her. And if you're ready to invest in something, I'm sure she can help you through that process as well. So thank you for being on, Sandhya. And then for the rest of you, again, this is the official Zoom for the LA County Real Estate Investors Association. We have an event every second Thursday of the month. It'll be this Thursday, February 9th at 6:30 with about 250 guests. We have about 50 vendors, and then we have a speaker, Chris Meza. The topic is pre-development real estate and land banking. It's free at 6:30 p.m. at the Inman Center in the Culver City area of West Los Angeles. Sandhya, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Some real gold nuggets. Look forward to talking again and doing some business with you soon. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.